All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, there certainly seems to be something brewing for Mr. Anthony Davis this up-and-coming NBA regular season. The way that the liberal sports media keeps speaking about him, there seems to be many big plans in store for him. Now, of course, the overall narrative is that LeBron James is going to win this up-and-coming season's NBA regular season MVP. But I believe that it's going to be Anthony Davis as long as he stays healthy. He certainly seems to be very focused on winning this season's regular season MVP. We've also now heard that the LA Lakers are considering possibly executing a major trade for him, as they've done in the past, and being able to allocate many of their more important pieces. So we'll see what happens. According to Mr. Stephen A. Smith and other reporters that are plugged into the NBA, Anthony Davis has stated that if this season does not go as he wants it to go, as I've already stated, that he's going to leave, quote unquote. So that makes me think that it's a fake story because he does not have the power to leave. He's under contract. But what I think they're trying to say is that if this season does not go how he wants it to go, he's going to try to demand a trade. He's going to try to strong arm a trade. And I believe that he's going to be successful. So it's really just a matter of where he ends up. I personally hope he ends up on the Boston Celtics, but we'll see. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Anthony Davis is one of the top players in the world, and according to our Max Kellerman, will pass King James as the best player by the end of the season. Davis has been a Pelican for his entire 6-year career, but just how much longer will the brow be in the Big Easy? Longtime NBA writer Chris Sheridan is citing sources that say Pelican star Anthony Davis is considering going elsewhere if things do go well with New Orleans this season. I think they...
Well, how can Anthony Davis, quote unquote, consider going elsewhere if things don't go well? What you really mean is he's going to try to force a trade. And this is why I stated that right now Kyrie Irving, he's pretty much taking some toothpaste out of the tube that cannot be put back in. And this is something that many of these NBA owners are going to have to discuss. They're signing these prominent players to long contracts, and they think that whenever they become unhappy, they can just force a trade. It happened with Kyrie. It happened with Kawhi. Jimmy Butler's trying to make it happen. And I think that Anthony Davis, trying to utilize the same strategy, is right there on the horizon.
They mean do not go well. Davis is under contract throughout 2021, but Sheridan said Davis is also considering the Celtics, Knicks, Sixers, and Lakers. Can the Lakers show fire Davis?
How can Anthony Davis be considering anybody? Once again, he's not a free agent. That's how you know this is a fake story. But the mainstream media, they have a litany of fake stories, especially during dead periods.
It'll be very, very difficult for them to do. I'm not going to say anything's impossible. I think Rich Paul, the agent for him, represents LeBron, represents JR, Tristan Thompson, various other people throughout the National Basketball Association, including John Wall, by the way. Anything's possible with him and what he could potentially pull off. I will say this, however. If I'm the Pelicans, I love these reports about Anthony Davis considering what?
Thank you, sir. What the hell is he considering? Break it down, please, Stephen A. Smith.
You locked in for this season. You locked in for next season. You don't have a player option until 2020, 2021. Anthony Davis is a generational player. No matter what you trade for, you ain't getting Anthony Davis. You ain't getting equitable value for Anthony Davis. You can't swap because Kevin Durant, these guys, you can't just trade them.
Absolutely. You'll never get back commensurate value. Anthony Davis right now is about a half step below Hakeem Olajuwon when Hakeem was in his prime. About a half step below that.
You understand what I'm saying? You need their approval in order to pull it off because all the stars either got these no trade clauses or they got that wink deal where you ain't doing a damn thing without their approval. So be clear. Anthony Davis, there's nothing but a superstar, the likes of Anthony Davis, that would suffice for Anthony Davis.
Absolutely. Anthony Davis is the type of player that he would have to be traded straight up for another superstar on his level, like a Kevin Durant or a Steph Curry or Kawhi Leonard, for you to even consider that trade being something where you can get back equal value. If you trade Anthony Davis for some prospects and for some draft picks, that's not commensurate value. You won't know how well you made out in that deal until about 5 years down the line.
So to me, that makes it that much harder that they're going to be able to get rid of him. If he could opt out after this coming season, that would be different. But the fact that they got this season and next season before he has a player option, I'm I'm of the mindset that it'll be far more difficult to move him than people imagine. I know they want to. I know that's why he's with Rich Paul in Clutch Sports, because you're talking about New York, L.A., or Boston.
Thank you, sir. What other reason could he possibly have decided to sign with Rich Paul? His justification for signing with him was he wanted to become the most dominant player in the NBA. What else could that mean other than he wants to be relocated somewhere where he feels like he'll get more shine, whether that's the Boston Celtics, the New York Knicks, or the LA Lakers? And I think that the Knicks will be at the bottom of his list. He'd prefer to end up either with the Lakers, teaming up with his hero LeBron, or maybe with the Celtics, which I think would put him in the best position to actually win a championship. And it would be best for the NBA as well, because I think that right now the Western Conference has a little bit too many of the most prominent players. And you don't want that same situation where you feel like the NBA championship is going to be the Western Conference Finals. Even though I think that the Boston Celtics, assuming that they can get to the finals, will give the Warriors, assuming that the Warriors get to the finals, a far better fight than what they got last year against Cleveland. Still, you put an Anthony Davis on the Boston Celtics, say if they can get that trade done for Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, maybe Jaylen Brown and a couple of draft picks, now all of a sudden they're right there with the Warriors.
I don't want to hear nothing about Philly. No, it's New York, Boston, or L.A. from what I heard. But I'm just telling you, even though Philly, by the way, Rich Paul represents, Ben Simmons too. Yep. So.
Right, but Stephen A., how the hell would he fit in with the Philadelphia 76ers unless you're saying that the Sixers are willing to trade Joel Embiid for him straight up? Or maybe Joel Embiid and Markelle Fultz. But if you're the Philadelphia 76ers, do you really think that Anthony Davis is worth Joel Embiid and somebody else? Because right now, to me, they're pretty much even Steven, pretty much. Because they're both injury prone, they're both great on defense, they're both great on offense. So if he's talking about going to Philly, basically, or at least according to this report, the only player that possibly could be getting traded for him is a Joel Embiid, because it would fill both teams' needs, hypothetically speaking. I'm sure that Philadelphia is not going to trade Joel Embiid and Markelle Fultz for Anthony Davis.
So we got to pay attention to that. But what I'm saying is I don't believe that is the option. I think it's New York, Boston, or L.A. And
who the hell are the New York Knicks going to trade for Anthony Davis? This report is complete balderdash.
And I'm trying to figure out how you're going to do it.
The answer is...
You don't have to figure out anything because it ain't going to happen.
The answer is yes, the Lakers have enough to get Anthony Davis, I believe. We have to see how the season pans out. I mean, if Brandon Ingram, knock wood, had a catastrophic injury, and Lonzo Ball doesn't develop at all, then obviously your assets aren't what you think they are. But if this trajectory holds true for Ingram, that's an all-star. It's an all-star player. He's also exceptionally young and has the potential to be an all-star.
Well, Brandon Ingram, I'm not quite sure if he's an all-star player, because right now in the Western Conference, they're pretty deep at his position. I mean, you have KD out there, you have Draymond out there, you have Paul George out there. So you have LeBron out there. So, I mean, how is he going to make the all-star team? But the Lakers certainly have enough assets to trade for an Anthony Davis.
Star two-way player. No, he starts hitting the three eventually, Ingram, and then what doesn't he do? Defend, pass the ball, can run the point at his height, can slash, get to the rim, the whole thing. Ingram is their crown jewel of all the draft picks, right? And Kuzma can really shoot the ball, and if Lonzo develops, but there's literally no price too high to pay for Anthony Davis if you're the Lakers, because Anthony Davis is already the main competition for Tim Duncan in terms of the greatest power forward who ever lived.
He has a ways to go, Max Kellerman. I mean, Anthony Davis is a great player. I think that by the end of his career, he may have surpassed Tim Duncan, but he's going to have to win at least 3 championships to be mentioned with Tim Duncan. You have to understand what Tim Duncan was able to do on that squad. He won 5 championships. He's 5-1 in the finals, and he really should be 6-0. I mean, if Ray Allen does not make that shot, we're talking about Tim Duncan right there with Michael Jordan as being the player who's probably been the most proficient in the modern era when it comes to winning championships. Right now he's 5-1. Kobe was 5-2. So before we start mentioning Anthony Davis with a Tim Duncan, he has to win at least 3 titles, at least.
His peak is already better than Karl Malone, or Charles Barkley, or Dirk Nowitzki, or Kevin Garnett. And these are some of the greatest.
Well, right now, Anthony Davis he's alongside Karl Malone in regards to stats. Go ahead and look up Karl Malone's numbers, man. Karl Malone from 1986 all the way to like 2003 was giving you 25 and 10. Like, I mean, his consistency was unbelievable. Go look up Karl Malone's numbers.
Greatest players who ever lived. But if you said, did any of those guys achieve the level of overall ability that Anthony Davis has already achieved? I would say no. Now, in terms of championship medal and everything, you saw Kevin Garnett had it, right? You see what Dirk Nowitzki could do at his best. But if you were just to say skill set, who would you want? It's other than Tim Duncan, it's Anthony Davis. When you have an all-time player like that in his prime.
He is transcendent. There's no doubt about that.
The way I was talking about Khalil Mack, hey, the Raiders can't just trade him for whatever. Boy, what price is too high to pay? Even if they say, we want Ingram and Kuzma.
Well, it's not a matter of,
and whoever.
But it's not,
okay.
It's not a matter of the price. It's a matter of what New Orleans is willing to accept to give him away. Because you got to remember, their franchise is going to go in this direction. They lose Anthony Davis.
Well, let's be for real. Their franchise is going to go in that direction even if they keep Anthony Davis, because they're not going to lure any free agents there. So we'll see what goes on with them this season. I think that they're going to make the playoffs, so it's going to be relatively difficult for a team to truly be able to trade for him. I'm sure that they're going to be receiving a bevy of offers, especially around January. But I think that the Pelicans are going to be competitive enough in the regular season to withstand his potential ire. So I don't think that he's going to be in the position to be able to demand a trade. Why is that? Because he wants to win MVP this year. So it's not even like he can try to play to below his standards to try to instigate a trade or to instigate the team not being as successful as they could be so that he could therefore force a trade or ask for a trade per se. So right now there's going to be some mitigating circumstances around the New Orleans Pelicans and Anthony Davis that, in my view, are going to stop him from being in the position to try to force or request a trade, because he does want to win this season's MVP award. That means he has to play balls to the wall out of his mind, and his team is going to have to win games.
And so it's going to go in this direction in their mind because he's a generational talent. And so because you're going to lose somebody the magnitude of him, you're going to be looking for some significant compensation in return. Players, picks, all of that other stuff comes into equation. I don't know if the Lakers can pull that off.
Well,
I think Boston can.
Well, here's the thing.
But I don't know. Because you know what? If I'm New Orleans, I'm definitely requiring Jason Tatum.
And I don't think they're going to get Jason Tatum.
No, they're not going to get Jason Tatum, but they may be able to get, well, I'm sure that they're going to be able to get Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, and probably 2 first-round draft picks. So it's going to be up to New Orleans if they want to accept that.
Tatum is also going to be the full component of the offense. That makes my point. In other words, the Pelicans have to believe that they can win a championship with Anthony Davis this year or next, or else they should deal him, because they will certainly lose him. Because even though New Orleans is a kind of attractive market in certain ways, a market like New Orleans never gets a guy to sign.
We're talking about this season.
This year, since they only have this year and next year, his value goes down on the trade market. Right now is the most you're going to get for him because the team that acquires him has him for another year.
Not necessarily. If you even next year, his value goes down if you're just talking about moving him, period.
Right.
But if you're talking about moving him to a place that he's interested in resigning,
that's right.
And the value.
But the reason it goes down anyway is because there are fewer buyers now. Period.
No.
Because of that. Because he'll be a free.
No, sir. I don't think that there's ever going to be a situation where there will be fewer buyers for Anthony Davis. It's pretty much like the Kawhi Leonard situation. When you have a player who's good enough, there's always going to be buyers, especially for the teams that Anthony Davis will want to go to. If you're a contender, you'll be willing to rent Anthony Davis, hoping that you'll be able to convince him to stay. Because if you're a championship contending team, you're not worried about your future 6 or 7 years down the line anyway. You're trying to win right now.
No, with him, there's fewer buyers, period, because he's not going to go anywhere else.
Ding.
He's making it very, very clear. He doesn't want to be in any place but those locations. And so as a result, that's problematic for any franchise that acquires.
So
now we know already that Anthony Davis, if he requests a trade, he does not have the power to say, I don't want to go here or I don't want to go there, at least as far as I know. If I'm wrong about that, one of you brothers can correct me. But if I remember correctly, the only players with a no-trade clause in the NBA, I believe, are LeBron and Kevin Durant, if I remember correctly. But if I'm wrong about that, one of you brothers, please correct me on that. But once again, as Stephen A. Smith already stated, Anthony Davis's trade value is never going to go down because he's viewed as a top 3 level talent in the NBA, and by all reports, no lower than a top 10 level player in regards to his impact. So there's never going to be a time where his trade value goes down because, as Stephen A. Smith already stated, and as I stated, the only teams that really are going to want him and want to use him are teams that are in championship contention, and they're not going to care if Anthony Davis decides to leave at the end of the season because they're trying to win now anyway.
Now look at, so even take just those franchises.
Right.
What package will be put together that's better than a package centered on, say, Brandon Ingram? You have to look around at, and because if no other team can put together a better pack or is willing to put together a better package than that, then that's the package that's going to do it.
Let's look at this. I got 6 names for you. Think about this. 6 names, and they're all on the same team.
Okay.
You got Kyrie, you got Gordon Hayward. You got Jaylen Brown, you got Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
You got Marcus Smart, you got Terry Rozier. Obviously, those last 2 don't compare to Anthony Davis, but what I'm trying to say to you is that the multitude of pieces and parts that they have, if you're Danny Ainge.
Yes, it's almost too perfect for the simple fact that Boston already has the problem where they almost are too deep. They have too many players at each position. They almost go 3 deep at every position. So they have so many pieces and so many draft picks. I have no idea why they would not want to try to trade for Anthony Davis. I think that right now all they're going to do is try to showcase Gordon Hayward, prove that he can still play, and that's who they're going to offer first. I'm a believer that Jason Tatum is off limits. Why would you have Jason Tatum as part of the package when you could move Jaylen Brown? You move Jaylen Brown, you bring in an Anthony Davis, who knows? Maybe if they're lucky, if they really pull a coup, they can get Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday for Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Gordon Hayward, maybe even throw in Terry Rozier and a couple of first-round draft picks.
What you really, really need to think about is, okay, I got 3 guys that I absolutely, positively have to keep. Whoever those 3 are. Because I'm going to have to give up something mega for the services of Anthony Davis.
Absolutely.
Are you ready for this? If I'm Danny Ainge, I wouldn't give up anybody. You know why? Because I'm going to the finals without him.
Right.
Right, but you're not going to win. I mean, most likely you're not going to win. Are the Boston Celtics going to beat the Golden State Warriors? I don't think so.
I'm not giving up anybody.
Therefore, I agree with you. Therefore, the package likely offered by the Celtics is not what it might be. So take the Celtics, even though they have assets like Tatum. I don't think they'll give up Tatum.
I don't think so.
So take the Celtics kind of out as a buyer who's gonna push the market up in terms of what you have to give up for Anthony Davis. Who else is there? What do the Knicks have to offer? They ain't giving you Porzingis.
The Knicks have nothing to offer. I'm not even quite sure why they're mentioned in there, other than the notion or the fact that maybe Anthony Davis wants to go there to reignite that franchise, or it's a bullshit report filled with balderdash.
All right,
So what do they have to
gotta leave it
offer?
there. Max, by the end of the season, who's going to be the best player on the planet?
Anthony Davis.
Yes, sir. The season.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see what happens with Mr. Anthony Davis over the course of this season. But as much as I'm hearing his name prior to this season, it's very obvious that they have plans for him. So peace.